Ladies and gents, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy, this is Call of Duty Warzone, and today we're tackling aim assist, as it's a super hot topic right now, but not just in Call of Duty, but FPS games in general. Now, where Warzone is concerned, there are claims that controller aim assist is too strong, it's overpowered, it's breaking the game, and ruining the experience for mouse and keyboard users. And who would have thought I'd be saying that 5 years ago or so, when up until recently the common acceptance was that mouse and keyboard was just superior. In terms of what you could do with it, I don't want to start an argument. I'm a controller user, by the way. But yeah, this idea, this narrative has created a perception that it's a no-skill mechanic to use aim assist. And some people have the correct idea about how strong it is, and others have a way overblown idea and think it's basically aimbot, which it's not. It's not the same thing, and we'll go through all of that. But this is a narrative that's been strengthened by notable gamers and streamers frequently bringing it up, such as recently Summit1G, and then on top of that, the mega hyped Valorant, which looks set to possibly dominate competitive shooter esports, if all goes well that is seemingly planning on not having aim assist for controllers, lending credence to the idea that it's wrong and faux pas and whatever else. But is any of this actually valid? Well, I also want your feedback in the comments below, and we can kind of build up a limited overview of opinions, perspectives, and experiences to draw everything together. So let's get into it, and of course it all comes down to the strength of the aim assist in different games for a start, and then how it functions. Because people call lots of different things aim assist, and it's not all the same at all. The first main point that needs to be considered is whether the aim assist is merely slowdown or stickiness when aiming at the target, which is the traditional form and definition of aim assist, or if there's also a snap lock-on mechanic known as auto-rotation, which drags people to the target if they aim near enough to them, which of course unsurprisingly does get complained about a lot, and I fully understand that. Well, I'm going to tentatively say that Warzone doesn't have auto-rotation, or at least not particularly noticeably. What you're now looking at here is me playing in the practice Warzone mode and using all of the different aim assist settings, and I couldn't get the game to auto lock onto targets at all, no matter how close to them I aimed. I've been through my footage of playing normally, the normal Warzone mode as well, and I couldn't notice it in there either, and I personally can't feel it doing it, and I've played both with it and without it in lots of other shooters with differing degrees of strength of auto rotation, and I'm telling you, I definitely notice when it's very strong. I'm looking at you, early Battlefield 1. But it's also very hard to get a clear and consistent answer for this online, and there's some claiming it's different across different modes and some claiming it isn't. The community is getting all kinds of confused, and so what I'm going to stick with right now is I can't see it, I can't feel it. If it's in there, it seems to be minimal, but I am open to the idea that it's there and I'm just not really noticing it. But I would have thought it would come up in the gameplay I've shown you so far. Now, I will say, when I wasn't testing this out, when I'm just playing normally, I use the standard aim assist mode rather than one of the new ones like precision, so this is another instance where your feedback can be very helpful. When you're playing normal Warzone or Plunder or even the multiplayer if you want, are you noticing any kind of snap lock on aim assist with different aim settings, and does it differ across different modes? The most consistent info I can find is that there isn't snap lock on in Warzone, or at most there's some at close range, and then beyond that it's negligible. And so if we move auto rotation aside, how strong is the aim assist slowdown? Well, this is where a lot of the complaints actually come from, that the slowdown makes it too easy to control recoil and track targets. And well, it really depends on which setting you use. The standard one, which I use, seems to be the classic form of Call of Duty aim assist, a normal amount of aim slowdown on and quite near to the target, something never really complained about before, although we must keep in mind that crossplay is still a relatively new premise for multiplayer games when compared with the overall existence of Call of Duty. But then after this is where it all gets a bit tricky. Precision provides strong aim slowdown when aiming at an enemy, and yes, that is strong aim slowdown. I did play around with this against bots and in the actual game itself, and it does feel very strong at times. I can see why there might be complaints here, but it is important we level our complaints at the right things, at the right specific settings, and understand what they do. Regardless, in-game it says that this setting is good for accurate players, and maybe so, but I also feel like it allows less able players to kind of just throw their aim around at the target, and if they get onto it, they can abuse super sticky aim assist. Either way, this is the start of the problem for me. I don't personally like using this setting, but I also feel like it could well be too strong when playing against players not using it, whether they be controller or mouse and keyboard users, and I don't really like differing levels of aim assist in games. Something I've brought up in Battlefield. I didn't like when they increased the auto rotation in that game in Battlefield 5, and I don't like that it can be tuned up and down and turned on and off and create this uneven playing field. But then also there's focused aiming, which has strong aim assist on and near the target. So basically there are two strong aim assist settings now, and the traditional one, which I personally use, plus course, no aim assist if you want it, which is a risky play if you're using a controller, but some people do prefer that. And so overall, this can be really quite strong if you use certain settings. I'm totally on board with some people saying it's too much. I do get that, but I actually found it to be a hindrance for me personally. I haven't liked anything other than the standard one so far, and that's not the one I think that's really being complained about. But also, complaints about snap lock-on, I don't really see that happening, not significantly as we said, so I do want to push away some of the criticism that's coming in for controller users because I don't think it's fair. Not all of it. The way I see it currently is that some of the settings can be somewhat abused, but often by less able players when it comes to aiming. So it could be argued that it's overly forgiving for lesser players and levels the playing field to an unfair or unneeded degree. But perhaps there's some really good players out there abusing this as well. Maybe they've learned how to use it properly and it's completely broken, which would be a shame. But you can't fault them for using it. It's in the game and it's really a problem with balancing. All of this is, however, personal opinion. Now, I can't speak here from a mouse and keyboard user's perspective, of course, so I need to try to limit my bias as much as possible. But I don't think this is all that crazy on an overall balance standpoint when you consider all of the factors. However, I would have no issues with the focusing and precision aim assist settings being tweaked, reworked, or removed, because we do still have the standard one and it seems to work just fine. Again, just my opinion. Either way, I'm open to the possibility of any of them being too strong. Perhaps for a PC player, while they have many undeniable advantages, which we will go into soon, it may feel like once a controller player acquires the target, acquires them, they simply don't get off the target, resulting in the PC player feeling like they always die in that situation and there's little they can do about it. And this is probably an issue with range. At close quarters, this probably seems really strong, whereas from further away, I think mouse and keyboard still has a clear advantage. And it's important we keep all of that in mind as well. And so I imagine some of this can be very frustrating for different players using different input methods at different times, and this is where we get the confusion and mass complaining. Tweaks here and there could really be in order to get better balance. But I will say that PC players need to try to avoid bias as well. My point being, as I said, that there are a great many advantages to using mouse and keyboard, something that's been commonly accepted for years, which is why it seems so crazy to us controller users now to be told that what we're using is overpowered. Aim assist is basically needed if controller users are going to compete in a cross-play setting. That doesn't mean that it's all well balanced right now, of course, but we do really need some if we're going to compete properly. Using a mouse is faster and more precise. Using a whole arm rather than just a thumb is faster and more precise. There's vastly superior movement with mouse and keyboard. A keyboard has a vast array of key binds and more of an ability to do multiple actions simultaneously whilst the mouse is being used. PC players also generally have better frame rates, better field of view, better graphical fidelity. I could go on. And I've seen these complaints about controller users being made on other games as well, and my experience has brought me to the conclusion that often, but not always, the claims are overblown. And then having now extensively watched gameplay of both input methods on Warzone, while controller may be more forgiving, for truly able players, mouse and keyboard again looks like being the superior input method, plus everything else that goes into playing on PC, which makes the argument more complex. Maybe the issue really is that controller makes it easier for less able players, and that's the problem, and mouse and keyboard makes it easier for more able players, and that's the problem. How do you avoid these things? Maybe you can't. Maybe that's just crossplay, and there's always going to be balance issues. I think overall both input methods have advantages and disadvantages, something that, as said, is near unavoidable. It's just a case of how well balanced those are and whether they can be improved. And so if we start to conclude, personally, I don't feel like the aim assist setting that I use is all that overbearing, but a couple of them are maybe too strong. However, some of the complaints that are made about them seem to be false or exaggerated. This is not aimbot, however much some people want to call it that, and I do still see mouse and keyboard as being the superior method if you've got some kind of ability. A big part of the problem overall though is that it seems like neither controller or mouse and keyboard players currently have the option to filter each other out in Warzone. I certainly couldn't find a way to do it. It seems like you have to have crossplay turned on, and it's up for debate whether you think that's good or bad, but regardless, that's the lay of the land now. Those are the facts and the opinions, and please feel free to continue the discussion respectfully down below, and let's see what we can pull together. I hope you can all see I've tried to play this down the line and list the pros and cons of both, and I hope you can do the same. And that is my coverage of aim assist in Call of Duty Warzone for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leaving a like is massive for me. It makes a huge difference and helps the channel to grow. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and turning on notifications to stay up to date with the massive amount of content I've been putting out and will continue to put out. And all the links to my social media, including Patreon, can be found in the description and my pinned comment. Here is the Board of Awesome for the the epic people who already support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes, and I love them all deeply and, of course, often. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm Get Good Guy, and I'll see you next time. Laters. Player number 3, World Record Shot Hunter. Yep, this guy's a sniper, generally, usually, bolt action user. And you know the tank guy that sits 9 million miles away? Well, this sniper guy does basically the same thing, but is even less likely to hit his shot. His only focus is trying to hit the longest shot in video game history,